Welcome to Vedic Wisdom Insights. Glory to my Guru, Swami Mukundananda, for showering his blessings on me and everybody. Welcome to our ongoing Isopanisad series. In the last episode, we discussed about description of the transcendental and eternal form of the absolute personality of Godhead. In today's episode, we will discuss about comparative study of Vidya and Avidya. Avidya takes us to the darkest regions of ignorance. However, Vidya, if unused properly, becomes more dangerous than Avidya. Let's start with verse 9. Andham tama pravisanti, ye vidyam upasate, tato bhuya ivate tamo, yayu vidyayam rata. Translation: those who engage in the culture of nascent activities shall enter into the darkest region of ignorance. Worse still are those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge. This verse gives us a comprehensive study of Vidya and Avidya. Avidya or ignorance is undoubtedly dangerous, but Vidya or knowledge is even more dangerous when mistaken or misguided. This mantra of Shri Isopanishad is more applicable today than at any time in the past. Modern civilization has advanced considerably in the field of mass education. But the result is that people are more unhappy than ever before because of the stress placed on material advancement to the exclusion of the most important part of life, the spiritual aspect. As far as Vidya is concerned, the first mantra of Isopanishad has explained very clearly that the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of everything, and that forgetfulness of this fact is ignorance. The more a man forgets this fact of life, the more he is in darkness. In view of this, a godless civilization directed toward the so-called advancement of education is more dangerous than a civilization in which the masses of people are less educated. There are different classes of men, such as karmis, jnanis and yogis. The karmis are those who are engaged in the activities of sense gratification. In the modern civilization, 99.9% of the people are engaged in the activities of sense gratification. All these activities are more or less based on the satisfaction of the senses, to the exclusion of the kind of God consciousness described in the first verse. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, 15th verse, the commentary given by my Guru Swami Mukundananda, where he says there are 4 kinds of people who don't surrender to God: the ignorant, lazy, deluded intellects, and demonic nature. The people who are engaged in gross sense gratification are worshipping Avidya because they know their goals. They know why they must achieve this goal, but still they don't do it. It's not they don't have the knowledge, but their excessive attachment to the sense objects makes them forget their goals. Let me give you a simple example that despite having knowledge, people are still in avidya. In modern civilization, people are more concerned to transform their life externally. They are educated, working in MNCs, few are entrepreneurs, have massive wealth, but internally they are weak, and their minds and thoughts have become so negative that many of them are dependent on pills and medicines to relieve their stress and anxiety. People are spending enormous amount of money to look good from outside. Take the case when they buy food products, they check the labels, ingredients and expiry. They ensure they consume the food before expiry. Thus externally they are doing well, but internally they are obsessed towards material advancement, increasing lust and greed towards material possessions. Therefore, they ensure to consume the food before expiry to keep the body healthy. But when consuming that same thoughts to the mind, they don't focus on negatives like anger, greed, lust, jealousy, comparison, resentment, fear, anxiety, and so on. Thus, modern civilization is a patchwork of activities meant to cover the perpetual miseries of material existence. All such activities are aimed towards sense gratification. But above the senses is the mind, above the mind is intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul. Thus, the aim of real education should be self-realization, realization of the spiritual values of the soul. Any education which does not lead to such realization must be considered as avidya. And to culture, such avidya means to go down to the darkest region of ignorance. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, 42 verse and chapter 7, 15th verse, ShreeKrishna says, there are Vedvata Rata and Mayaya Paharta Jnana. Those who are Vedvata Rata pose themselves as very learned in the Vedic literature, but unfortunately they are completely diverted from the purpose of the Vedas. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, 15th verse, it is said that the purpose of the Vedas is to know the personality of Godhead. But these Vedvata Rata men are not at all interested in the personality of Godhead. On the contrary, they are fascinated by such fruitive results as the attainment of heaven. In the first verse, we clearly understood that Lord Vishnu is the creator and all the things belong to him. He is the only proprietor of everything, and we must be satisfied with whatever we have got it from Lord. The purpose of all Vedic literature is to awaken and understand this God consciousness in the forgetful living being. And the same purpose is presented in various ways in the different scriptures of the world for the understanding of a foolish mankind. Thus, the ultimate purpose of all religions is to bring one back to Godhead. But the Vedvata Rata people, instead of realizing that the purpose of Vedas is to revive the forgetful soul's lost relationship with the personality of Godhead, they take it for granted that such side issues as the attainment of heavenly pleasure for sense gratification. Such people misguide others by misinterpreting the Vedic literature. Sometimes they even condemn the Puranas, which are authentic Vedic explanations for laymen. They give their own explanations of Vedas, neglecting the authority of great teachers. They also tend to raise some unscrupulous person from among themselves and present him as a leading exponent of Vedic knowledge. They are especially condemned in this mantra by the very appropriate Sanskrit words Vidyayam Rata. Vidyayam refers to the study of Vedas because the Vedas are the origin of all knowledge, and Rata means those engaged. Thus, Vidyayam Rata means those engaged in the study of the Vedas. The so-called students of the Vedas are condemned herein because they are ignorant of the actual purpose of the Vedas on account of their disobeying the Acharyas. Such people search out meanings in every word of the Vedas to suit their own purposes. They do not know that the Vedic literature is a collection of extraordinary books that can be understood only through the chain of disciplic succession. The Mayaya Paharta Jnana class of men are self-made gods. Such men think that they themselves are God and that there is no need of worshipping any other god. They will agree to worship an ordinary man if he happens to be rich, but they will never worship the personality of Godhead. Such men, unable to recognize their own foolishness, never consider how it is that God can be entrapped by Maya, his own illusory energy. If God were ever entrapped by Maya, Maya would be more powerful than God. Such men say that God is all-powerful, but they do not consider that if he is all-powerful, there is no possibility of his being overpowered by Maya. These self-made gods cannot answer all these questions very clearly. They are simply satisfied to have become God themselves. To conclude and understand the link, Vidya means to read the scriptures, understand it from our Guru, and implement the teachings in our life. At all times, we should know the purpose is to know God and serve Him, our community and society. Avidya means lack of knowledge, ignorance, and it also means that despite having knowledge, we are not walking towards it and misinterpreting the Vedas knowledge. Hare Krishna.